Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today we are going to be going over the Succession Dark Knight PvE Rotation. I originally was not going to make this video because all my grind videos, you could literally just watch that one and the skills are on screen. But I figured why not, we'll just cover it. So for everyone who asked, here's the video. And I'm going to cover why I chose a lot of the skills. I tried to also organize my UI so you guys can see the rotation in action. And also we'll go over the add-ons and everything else, so I'll explain why it makes sense. So with that said, keep in mind that I've been playing Dark Knight for years and a lot of this will make sense to me. And if you're a beginner, it might not make sense to you. But anyway, I'll try to talk about this in as easy as I can way. So for people who are beginners, hopefully I'll try to make it make sense. So with that said, this is going to be for Succession and post-patch. A lot of stuff has changed and I'll talk about why. So with that said, let's talk about the rotation. So I organized my UI setup and here's how you do it. Edit UI, turn on all the cooldowns. And if you have no idea what all this means, QS means quick slot. CD is cooldown. I use most of these to put it in the way I can. And the way you should be looking at it is from left to right, like pretend like you're reading a book. So you're going to go this way and then down, this way, down, this way, down. And I truly feel like Succession is one of those things where it's more free to do whatever you want. Just hit your buttons on cooldown. So what works for you? If it works for you, just use that. But this is what I use and it works for me. So let's start with everything and the skills and why. So I open with an Unveiled Dagger because this one will give you attack speed 10% for 10 seconds. So I think this is a good opener. And then followed by... actually, I think let's start with the add-ons first. Airstrike. Attack cast speed. That means you also don't have to open with Unveiled, but I think it's a good idea just in case you want to switch this out for anything, or if it's on cooldown, it's always good to have your attack and cast speed, and you know, doing things faster is a lot easier. Followed by Slanted Balance is nearly next in your rotation. For Succession, crit rate matters more than if you're playing Awakening, and you want to have as close to 100% or if not 100% at all times. And to do that, you would have 30% on here, plus the new UI sheet, you can actually look at it. So it's like 23 over here, and that includes one Reforge with crit rate on it. So that would be at least 50%, and a lot of the other relevant skills that you're using, like this one, Wheel of Fortune, that's 50%. So ideally, the goal is to get 50% from your skills, and then 50 from every other source. So everything else should be 100%, and our goal is to keep this up as close to 100% uptime as we can. So that's why we have that. And then movement speed, like if you move faster, you clear faster, you get more trash loot. That makes sense, right? Wheel of Fortune, debuffing the enemies and then increasing your crit damage for your filler skills. Lunacy of Vidir is like if you are a little bit slower on your rotation, you could recast this and then your attack speed is up 100% of the time in theory. Back attack damage. A lot of things that I've been testing is whether Wheel of Fortune or Lunacy of Vidir is better to go first. And I chose Wheel of Fortune. That is going to be first in the order and then followed by Lunacy. Just because I think the damage is, you know, more on Lunacy. And, well, actually, if you look at this one, it's like 12,000. And then this one is 10,000. So you want to buff up with all your special attacks first before slamming the Lunacy, which does more damage. And so that makes sense to me. And if you want to do it the other way with some other add-ons and everything, I think that's fine too. So these are basically your big hit damage, and what order you do, I think it really is up to you. And then blooming, this flows with a lot of skills. So how you use it depends on what skill you use, and then your cooldowns might be a little bit differently. And so I think I just use this one for DP buffs and then refreshing my crit rate. So in theory, all of these skills you should be repeating within 7 seconds. So like the more you practice, the faster you do it. And then Spirit Legacy is, of course, one of the things you could hit off cooldown and on cooldown. You shouldn't be spamming it, but you could do it. And I have minus 20 DP because you could just debuff enemies. Instantly recover 35. I think this is a fine option, but also I was doing it for bosses. Like, you know, if you're doing Calamity 8 to 10 bosses, sometimes your other skills are on cooldown and you just need health, but you can't go to a globe, you know, those green things. So I think that's fine. This is more for bosses. I think you can swap this one out for, I don't know, literally any other debuff or, you know, anything else, more special attack damage and anything. But I personally found this to work for bosses. You could swap this out as your flex spot. All right, with that said, once again, we start off with Unveiled Dagger. This is your opener, mostly for the buff and like the bleed damage. It's very minimal. And then followed by Airstrike going down here. And this puts the attack and cast speed, and I chose back attack. You could do whatever else you want. And so that's opening with your buffs and everything. And then followed by Slanted and Pervasive. So Slanted right here, we also boost our crit rate up in our opener, and then more movement speed, which is going to be very good long term if you're grinding circles and everything. Pervasive is a flow with it, and it plus 10 AP, and also, you know, it just flows really well with it. But you are doing damage and also plus 10 AP for 10 seconds. Next, we have Spirit Legacy, followed by the Blooming Magnus skill. So I personally like the flow of this one. You could flow it with Twilight or a lot of other things, but I think it works for me that I flow Spirit Legacy with Blooming Black Rose, and these are two add-on ones. So I'm like, you hit this one first, you're debuffing the enemies, the instantly recover, you could change that to whatever, and then Blooming is buffing you with defenses and also refreshing your crit rate. So followed by that, we have Enforcement, which is over here. This one is actually low-key really strong. If you've ever used it in PvP, this thing chunks people. But we're not talking about that now. This is PvE. Now that we're buffed with all these abilities, right? Now we have Wheel of Fortune and Lunacy. These are our big damage abilities, right? So this one, once again, you could also, if you're going from pack to pack and you're on the next one already, you're debuffing the enemies again and then refreshing your crit damage. And this one is refreshing your attack cast speed and then back attack. You could also change that to whatever you want. Followed by that, when all these are on cooldown, you're using your Ravage, Rake, and Flow. This one takes a couple of seconds. It's a HP recovery, but also like it gives you a couple seconds, so all your skill cooldowns kind of reset. After this one, you have Twilight Dash and Comma Slash right here. And this is kind of like an extra thing. You can use Twilight Dash as a movement to get in and out, or you can flow it with comma and just do bigger damage in AoE. So it's kind of a situational one. And then these two are just movements and pulling for extra. So let's show you what it looks like in action. Anyway, this is what it looks like. You do this, flow, and then this one, and then that, and then I had 100 up. So, but anyway, you see how when I end this combo, usually these are restarting again, and you could do that one. So to show you it again. Yeah, so as you start your Ravage Rake, your starters were basically going again. So like those are ending, and that's basically a loop. You just keep doing that one. Now, how do you use Obsidian Ashes? So let's say you're grinding an enemy over here, right? And then there's an enemy over here. You use it as a pull, and then you do that one. So if there's an enemy over there, you can pull it towards you. So you group everything together, and if everything is happening, if you're trying to go from pack to pack, what you could do is also use your phantasmal and go like that, and then movement. So like you're actually making some big movements from here to there. So these are kind of like fillers, and over here are your movement abilities. So you'd be like dashing and then all that. So really just keep an eye out on your movement abilities. But this is your rotation: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then by that time, all your abilities are off cooldown. You recycle and do it again. And then the things you should have on Hotbar is your skill enhancements. You don't actually need it. Like, I just kind of have it. Balance Strike is what I have. This one you need to have on a quick slot. These two, I just put it on the Hotbar just to have it on like a visual timer instead, because I don't fit this into rotation, just kind of filler. So Spirit Legacy, you have this on your Hotbar. There's no way around it. You have to have it. Balance Strike, you put it on your Hotbar. Nocturne there's a lot of ways to use Nocturne. So basically you hit the button and then hit a directional, and it'll be a little bit different based on what direction. So that's one of the harder things to learn as a Dark Knight in a like instance. In any sort of situation where you have a split second to think about it, you Nocturne and hit a directional, and then it does something like forward or back. So you have to learn that one. And then Corrupt Ground is basically my heal. So you don't really use this for damage, but Dark Knight is very limited on self heals. And so that's kind of also why I chose Recovery. But your main healing abilities will be, well, I guess this if you have the add-on. Corrupt Ground is probably your biggest AoE self-heal. Lunacy is that too, and also Ravage Rake. If you hit things, it recovers on hit. So just keep that in mind if you're doing bosses, and that's pretty much it. Like if you're doing regular grinding, your Infinite Potion will basically cover that and all your regen pots and everything. But if you're doing individual bosses where you take a bigger hit and you need to actually recover, those are what it is. Now, with that said, basically your E-buff, use it when you think you need to use it. And then Nocturne, Balance, and Spirit Legacy. Those are the only ones you really need to keep hotbarred. Other than that, I would recommend learning the combos. Also because, like, Wheel of Fortune is something you could actually cancel out, and there's a lot of things. So it's a lot easier to learn the key combos versus just pushing 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But then once you learn how to flow and combo everything, it works a lot better. Now, with that said, let's talk about the crystals and add-ons, or we just talked about add-ons, but let's talk about the crystals I use. Keep in mind this is more for endgame, but if you're not at the endgame and you're just learning, consider this a goal for the future. So, crystals, my overcap, this is what I use. You want to do more attack and cast speed as a primary, and I'm not going to go over all the crystals because I've done an entire video of that twice. So if you're overcap, this is what you use. If you're not overcap, this is what you use to get the maximum damage output. And yeah, so that's the crystals I use. You could swap Void Destruction for more defenses if you like, and you could swap it for like a Stalwart Fortitude. So that's about it. Artifacts, once again, I also did another video of it, but when it comes to overcap, you're either using Vicious Shadows or Target Opening. Ultimately, it depends on what you want to do and like what kind of enemies you're fighting. So if you can get back attacks easier, Vicious Shadows, in my opinion, is a lot better. Target Openings, if you just don't want to use your brain and you just do crit damage. If you're not overcapped, you use All Out Attack. It has the most AP to get you into the cap of the area, and also a decent amount of crit damage. So if you were to only be able to pick one Vicious Shadows or Target Opening, simply because Strike Crystals are kind of expensive, at least here on NA they are, I would personally choose Vicious Shadows over Target Opening, but it ultimately depends. If you can get both of them, it makes life a lot easier. But for like newer players who can't afford to spend, you know, 4 or 5 billion on crystals or lightstones, that is, and you can only pick one, I think Vicious Shadows is higher damage output if you can get more back attacks, but ultimately it depends on your playstyle. So aside from that, those are the things I use, and if you want to look at more details on all the crystals and artifacts that I use, check out the dedicated video because that was a long one. And so Reforge crystals I use: back attack, crit damage, black spirit recovery, crit hit rate, and AP. Keep in mind, I only need 1 crit hit rate, and then the other one is damage reduction for more defensives. When Sovereign Offhand comes out next week, I'm gonna copy this one. I already have everything set up. So yeah, I think realistically, you only need 1 crit hit rate, 5%, to be able to hit 100 cap really like consistently. And then after that, you could just put damage reduction or accuracy if you're PvPing or literally anything else. So yeah, 1 crit hit rate is all you need. If you have 2 or something, I guess it's just a little bit safer, but ultimately you only need 1 if you're trying to min-max it. I think that's it. We talked about skill rotation, how to do it, add-ons, crystals, artifacts, lightstones. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction. But if you learned anything from this, Succession Dark Knight is a lot of, you know, just hit your buttons on cooldown. There's less of a rotation than Awakening. So I think like if you found some sort of combo that worked for you, it's ultimately like, it's probably fine. Just hit your buttons. But this worked for me, and hopefully this visual helps you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It goes 1, 2 like that. So anyway, that's all. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys later. Peace.